We welcome to the show and a special interview with Mr. Elon Musk, who, of course, is famed Trump advisor, CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, chair of X Corp. Elon, thank you for doing this. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I want to begin, but among other things, everyone's attacking you for your position. What are you doing in the government? There was a cyber attack on X today, which shut it down and may have been foreign sourced.
Yes.
It's a big story. You want to give us a moment on that?
Well, we're not sure exactly what happened, but there was a massive cyber attack to try to bring down the X system with IP addresses originating in the Ukraine area.
Well, so that's your suspicion. Is the website, is the internet up? Is it up yet?
It's up, yeah.
It's up yet, okay, good. But I just was looking back. Let me see if I get this right. They're setting fire to various Tesla charging stations near Boston. Shots were fired at a Tesla dealership in Oregon. Various nonviolent...
Shots fired, not a metaphor.
Shots fired, yes. Downtown New York, marching against the Tesla showroom. Your stock is way down. You've been criticized left and right.
But look on the bright side.
I mean, why are you doing this?
Always look on the bright side of life.
Yes. I'm an optimist.
Yeah. But besides that,
yes. I mean,
how's your day?
What motivates you to do this?
Was the opera good?
It's tough sledding.
Yeah, it is tough sledding. But I think we're doing the right thing here. There's been a tremendous amount of waste and fraud in the government. When you're part of the government, you saw a lot of that, and there's been. If you look at the Inspector General reports and the Government Accountability Office, there have been many audits that have pointed out that there's a tremendous amount of waste and fraud in the government. In fact, there was a report issued by the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, last year. So during the Biden administration, which estimated the federal government fraud to be $500 billion. So just because that's not a Trump administration thing, that's a Biden administration thing. So all we're trying to do is get that number down to a much smaller figure, save money for the American taxpayer, stop money being spent on things that I think very few taxpayers would agree make sense. Transgender animal surgeries, or why are we spending money? Why are American tax dollars being spent on this? The president's gone through a long list of absurd things. Why are the 20 million people who are definitely dead marked as alive in the Social Security database? Why were hundreds of millions of dollars of Small Business Administration loans were given out to people aged 11 and under, according to the Social Security? I mean, like, these must be some very enterprising 8-year-olds,
And some pretty strong 150-year-olds.
Yes, exactly. As the president said, we have an enormous number of people marked as alive who are 160. He didn't know the country was that healthy.
Yes. So demystify this. How do you do it? Okay. How big is your team?
Yeah.
Where'd you recruit most of them from? And what is it that makes you choose, the Treasury or Social Security or USAID? How does it work? Let the public know, please.
Right. Well, we just basically follow the money. We look at the president's executive orders, and we also just follow the money. So we started looking closely at USAID because they were completely violating the president's executive orders to suspend foreign aid, what's called foreign aid, but in our view is a lot of corruption. So what we saw there is just a tremendous amount of money being sent to non-governmental organizations. But actually, this, by the way, is, I think, one of the biggest sources of fraud in the world, is government-funded non-governmental organizations. This is a gigantic fraud loophole where the government can give money to an NGO, and then there are no controls over that NGO. So they've given billions of dollars, in fact, we estimate tens of billions of dollars, to NGOs that are essentially scams. By the way, trying to put a stop to that. So
I don't want to interrupt, but Secretary of State Rubio has just come out, I think he tweeted today, He has accepted over 80% of your recommendations to shut down in USAID.
Right.
So your review and analysis was spot on.
Yes. So I think when people criticize, say, what Doge is doing, we say, well, which part specifically? Because we put all of the actions of the Doge team on the doge.gov website and on the Doge handle on X. So we post the receipts. So it's like this action has been taken, this action has been taken. So when we get criticism, we say, like, of what? Which line do you disagree with? Like which cost saving do you disagree with? And then people usually can't think of any.
No.
So
it's transparent line by line.
It's transparent line by line,
which is quite remarkable.
Right. And so, and then with respect to the Treasury, for example, the two main recommendations we suggested, which have now been implemented, was that any payments going out of the Treasury, especially the Treasury's main payment computer, which is called PAM, things like a payments account manager or something like that, but it's like almost $5 trillion a year, so about $1 billion an hour, that the payments be coded with the congressional appropriation, and that there be an explanation for the payment. Very basic stuff. And just doing that, we estimate will save $100 billion a year.
You're not really, let me see if I get this right, particularly with Social Security, you're not really changing policy.
No, yes.
You're auditing the fiscal mechanisms to make sure that, from point A gets to point B, and that's where it's supposed to get to. In some cases, it doesn't get there, or in some cases, it may go over there. But that's it's not a policy exercise. You're not changing laws. You're just doing what any business would do in a profit and loss audit.
I think we're really what we're adding here is caring and competence. And there's a massive amount of fraud of basically people submitting Social Security numbers for Social Security benefits, unemployment, Small Business Administration loans, and medical, where those are fake Social Security numbers, or they've stolen somebody else's Social Security number, and we're trying to put a stop to all of that. And that's the number which is estimated to be on the order of 10% of federal expenditures, which is, half a trillion dollars.
It's a huge number.
Yeah.
You're working with the agency heads. You're working with the cabinet secretaries.
Yes.
I saw Howard Lutnick was on TV yesterday saying you were partnering with them. Is that fair?
Yeah, what we do is in consultation with the cabinet secretaries and with their departments. So we're really trying to be we'll refer to ourselves as tech support. We're really helping the department get a handle on things, because what actually happens here is you've got this sort of vast federal bureaucracy, and then you've got a very thin layer on top of the politically appointed officials, and what tends to happen is that the bureaucracy, frankly, is in control, and they largely ignore the politically appointed people.
Why should the bureaucracy?
I'm sure you must have seen that.
I've lived with this twice. I worked for Reagan many years ago, and I worked for Trump in the first term.
Yeah.
It's like a permanent bureaucracy. I might add, it's a permanently liberal bureaucracy.
Yes, very much so.
And it's not a bureaucracy that necessarily enforces or implements presidential policy.
They don't. In fact, they try their best to thwart presidential policy. So the president is the elected representative of the people. And if the president cannot get things implemented as a reflection of the will of the people, then what we have is not a democracy, we have a bureaucracy. We have rule of the bureau, not rule of the people. And that's what we're trying to defeat here is the bureaucracy and have rule of the people. And as you mentioned, the bureaucracy is overwhelmingly Democrat. So Washington, D.C. was 92.5%, I believe, voted for Kamala. So this is overwhelmingly a a deep blue situation.
How do you pick your next targeted agency or department?
Well, we're trying to act broadly across all departments, so it's not just one department at a time.
Are you in all of them now? All of them?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yes. Oh.
We're trying to make the government more efficient across the board. So yeah.
How big's your team?
We're a little over 100 at this point.
100.
Get to 200.
You're going to get to 200.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're recruiting from where? More or less.
Basically, it's software people, information security software people, and finance. It's basically, yeah, finance and technology. I mean, frankly, I can't believe I'm here doing this. It's kind of bizarre, but I kind of think that we've got this enormous federal budget deficit, and it's a $2 trillion deficit. It keeps growing. Our interest payments are higher than our Defense Department budget. That's I think was the real wake-up call for me, was looking at seeing that the interest payments on national debt exceeded the Defense Department budget, and that was only growing over time, which meant if we didn't do something about this, then there won't be any money for anything. We'll just be servicing debt.
And you know how to read an income statement, and you know how to read a balance sheet. You've had some business experience. I'm kidding, but
yeah.
You know about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really, I just don't want America to go bankrupt.
So it's a call to action. You're hearing a call to action.
Yeah.
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty. Yeah, I mean.
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient, eliminate waste and fraud, and so far we're making good progress, actually. So our savings at this point exceed $4 billion a day. Mm-hmm. So it's very significant.
You think you'll wind up getting to $1 trillion?
Yeah.
Of savings?
I mean, unless we're stopped, we will get to $1 trillion of savings.
And that stuff can be translated. I mean, we've been talking. We had Russell Vogt, the OMB director, on earlier, through very rescission authority, impoundment authority. But I believe you said earlier, it's an audit that will not gather dust on shelves. This is actually going to wind up with real savings, bend the spending baseline down.
Yeah. There have been many good audits, like I said, done by inspector generals and by Government Accountability Office, and they just haven't been implemented. Nothing's been done. I think the GAO identified that there were 17 million dead people in the Social Security database several years ago. It's now 20 million, but nobody did anything about it. I think you can sort of look at this as a complaint minimization optimization. So basically, if the government sends money out to, whether it's wasteful or fraudulent, nobody complains if they receive money, but they do complain if they don't receive money. And the people that complain the loudest are the ones receiving the fraudulent money.
And you're on it.
Yeah. I mean, so the goal here is let's not have America go bankrupt with waste and fraud. So that's what I'm here for, and we're making good progress.
Yes, you are. You're going to go another year?
Yeah, I think so.
Final report, middle of next year?
Well, we're just getting things done as opposed to writing a report. Like I say, reports don't mean anything. You got to actually take action.
Yes.
So the waste report in entitlement spending, which is which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. So that's like the big one to eliminate, because that's the sort of $500 billion, maybe $600-700 billion a year. that is also a mechanism by which the Democrats attract and retain illegal immigrants by essentially paying them to come here and then turning them into voters.
Yes.
So this is why the Democrats are so upset about the situation, because they're losing, you know, if we turn off this gigantic money magnet for illegal immigrants, then they will leave and they'll lose voters.
But you have President's support. He said so again yesterday. He completely supports your operation.
Yeah, well, thanks. But that's super, without the President's support, we couldn't make any progress here. Yeah, I mean, where you'll see the biggest outcry is from the Democrats who are, they don't want the waste and fraud to be turned off because it is a gigantic magnet to attract illegal immigrants and have them stay in the country. And I mean, you see some of the crazy stuff, like where money from FEMA, you know, which is meant, FEMA is an agency that's meant to take care of Americans in distress. And a bunch of their money was being sent to pay for luxury hotels in New York for illegal immigrants. And that was happening even after the president was elected, and even after he signed an executive order saying that needs to stop. So we actually made sure that that money did stop going, because obviously it's outrageous that American taxpayer money is spent on luxury hotels for illegals. But you have to say, like, why was that being done? It was because the Democrats are trying to import voters, basically.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah, and that's also why there's no voter ID needed. In fact, in California and New York State, you're not allowed to show voter ID. That's doesn't that seem insane?
Insane.
Yeah.
I say that as a New Yorker. It's insane.
Yeah, insane.
And it violates the entire Constitution and the principles behind it.
Yes.
Producers are yelling at me to get out. I don't want to end this interview because it's too much fun.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you one thing, 20 seconds? Nothing to do with Doge. Can you rescue the astronauts?
Yes, we're bringing them back in a few weeks.
There's not near enough attention being paid to this. You're going to get them back?
We're going to get them back.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your service, Elon Musk. We appreciate it very much. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, y'all got to bench Elon, man. Y'all gonna have to bench Elon. Elon is not going to be long for this world as a major American political figure. I watched his interview with Fox. He said, during the interview, he said, I don't know why I have to do this. He's annoyed at the perch that he is on right now and the way he's being perceived. He's opened himself up to a level of scrutiny that I don't think that he's going to be able to bear. I don't think so.
Well, his companies are certainly having a hard time.
Well, listen, I don't think we're going to have to pass the hat for Elon Musk. The guy's worth $300 billion. Do the math. If he put his money in tax-free government bonds, he would get $15 billion a year without touching the principal. So these setbacks that people are so concerned about, I wouldn't worry about it. I think it's patriotic what he's doing. I think that he's a disruptor. I think he is looking for fraud, corruption, and waste. And you know what? If we find fraud, corruption, and waste, and we end it, then we have more money for hospitals. We have more money for education. We have more money for infrastructure. Is that a bad thing?
I'll tell you what is not.
Let me tell you what is actually doing that, but there's not a lot of evidence.
I'll tell you what is bad and what is not patriotic is calling Mark Kelly a traitor. He called him a traitor today for having gone and visited Ukraine, which many Republicans and Democrats in Congress and in the Senate have done in the last several years. Mark Kelly is a naval aviator. He flew missions in the Gulf War. He has logged over 5,000 hours flying for the Navy. He then went on to be the pilot for the space shuttle. He serves in Congress. Elon Musk has absolutely no right, who has never served this country, who serves a president who made up a story about bone spurs so he could avoid the draft, has absolutely no right to call Mark Kelly, who is a patriot, who has served this country to the point of risking his life, and calling him a traitor. That is something we should all condemn.
I don't like that kind of language from either side, and it's gotten out of hand. I think that the discourse now...
I've had to do this a lot of times on the show, but like, I guess it's very easy to say either side to every single thing, but in response to what she said, what do you say about what Elon has to say?
Well, first of all, I would never denigrate somebody who served our country and call them a traitor unless I had material evidence that they were actually a traitor. So I think that Elon Musk is not a politician. He's not somebody that is what we would say politically astute. But I think he serves a great purpose in uncovering fraud, corruption, and waste, and I think it's a patriotic act on his part.
Look, I spent 5 years in City Hall working on government efficiency projects, and here's my advice for Elon. It's one thing to talk about efficiency, but what people actually care about, as you know, sir, as a local official, they care about efficacy. So if you look on the Doge board, it just shows how much they're cutting from the federal government. How about a board that shows how long passport times are taking, that shows how quickly people in the Veterans Affairs are getting their benefits? That's what people actually care about. And if he does that board and shows that he's making progress on that, that's showing that government is actually working for people. I think everyone here can get behind that.
Scott?
I think on the entitlement issue, which you played, the president is in charge. He has made it perfectly clear he is not touching Social Security, Medicare, and even Medicaid, other than to say if there is fraud in any program, he'd like to root out the fraud. That's period. He's the president. The buck stops with the president. He's been clear about that since he started running in 2015.
I mean, Republicans are getting ready to cut a lot from Medicare.
Well, you call it cuts. They're calling it could be slowing the growth of the program or rooting out fraud, but that's different than
I mean,
cuts.
well, here's the reason. Here's the reason I have a lot.
$880 million worth of fraud.
Yeah, and I have a lot of reason to doubt what you're saying because
let me tell you something. There's a huge able-bodied population in this country that should not be on welfare. That is a true story.
Okay, first of all,
well,
welfare,
that's actually not true.
Hold on a second. Welfare is not the biggest driver of this, actually. But what I'm saying is that Doge has put all this money on the board, and they've said, oh, this is waste, fraud, and abuse. And when you really look at it, they're just programs that that Elon and the president and random 20-something-year-olds don't like. So when you say fraud and abuse, there's not a lot of evidence.
The first word is usually waste, and they consider it to be waste.
Do you think
they are not actually doing that. When Congress authorizes money for a program or a program is duly authorized, that's not waste, fraud, and abuse. That's just something you don't like.
Abby, everybody wants to find waste, fraud, and abuse until somebody actually does it.
Do you think people...
This is the problem. This is the problem. They're actually saying, okay, maybe this is wasteful.
No, hold on for a second.
And then Washington goes crazy.
That's untrue. It's been done. The Clinton administration was able to put together an...
30-something years ago?
Right, but the point of it is the way that they...
never happened, and it definitely
it's been done,
happened
but the way that they went about it was to study for 6 months and then to take a longer time to understand which government jobs needed to be rooted out. He fired a bunch of people. He ended with a budget. It's been done. It's just the way that you guys are doing it.
I know. And the way that we're doing it is that you don't want us to do it. In 2019, we spent $4.4 trillion as a government. Last year, we spent $6.2 trillion. The government's gotten more expensive and much larger over the last 5 years. The only question Republicans have is, does it have to be this large and does it have to be this expensive? That's the question, and Elon's finally trying to cut into it, and the Republicans in Congress need to help.
Well, you guys should start it in your own house because your president drove up the deficit as much as anybody ever has, maybe more than anyone.
And why? What happened at the end of Trump?
So then
Any memory of it?
I do remember. Even before then, though. Even before that, though. Everybody's got Google. So the reality of it is this. If no one that I know, is against finding waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. However, the way that you go about doing it, you don't play with Americans' lives, you don't play with their jobs, you don't do things haphazardly where you have to fire people, then
Can you name one thing you do differently?
One thing I do differently?
You say
so now you're going to make me in charge of those.
No, I'm asking.
Okay.
You say you're against waste, fraud, and abuse. What would you consider the government to do that's wasteful today?
Okay, well then what I would do if I was looking for waste, fraud, and abuse is I would start in the Defense Department and at the Pentagon. I would start with the defense industrial complex of America, and I would look there.
I think Elon and you were in agreement on that.
Well, he hasn't. The question is, when are they going to get around to it?
Because they're starting off with firing
park rangers.
But hold on. One of the other things, you started your comment by saying the president's in charge. He's not going to touch Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. That's where all the money is, Scott, which is why
we're fighting over 28%.
He said he wasn't going to cut entitlements.
No.
They are going to look for fraud in Medicaid.
Bruce,
they are going to look for fraud in Medicare.
I'm telling you what Scott said. Scott said that he wasn't going to touch it. Elon said, correctly, that's where all the money is. So if you guys actually want to produce savings, you are going to have to touch it.
Actually, we started this segment. We started this segment talking about the fact that the president's closest aide, the guy who's attached at the hip to him, Elon Musk, called an American hero a traitor today.
Okay, but you said that already.
No, because you haven't
What
condemned
that,
it.
what does that got to do with?
Because that's what this segment was about, actually, and you haven't condemned it. Because you want to talk about something else instead of condemning what is condemnable.
I will say that Bruce did, well, maybe I shouldn't go so far as to say condemn, but you said that you do not condone that kind of language.
Bruce basically said chill.
So
I don't like it.
he did say that, but
let's talk what this is actually doing. I think the people who are paid to ID bodies of people killed in action who can't work right now are not waste, fraud, and abuse. I think that these kind of things that we're seeing, the people who oversee our nuclear stockpile are not waste, fraud, and abuse. These mistakes can't happen. It's too critical to our country.
The veterans who we promised we would protect.
We will never spend unless some administration has the guts to see this through. We will never ever spend less. We will never have a smaller government.
I take
everything
your point.
has a constituency in Washington.
I take your point about finding the spending that you want to cut, but I think there's no question, even Republicans agree, and we talked about this last week, this has been done in a haphazard way to the point where the president himself had to hear it from his cabinet secretaries who were asking, what's happening at the VA? Why are you cutting all these people? The transportation secretary said they were trying to cut air traffic controllers.
I hope the cabinet, I hope the cabinet and Elon
they had to speak up
work well together. The cabinet just got there, but ultimately, this is not a conversation that can be put off forever. And I feel like this is what Washington does. They try to just push it back as far as they can, and then we'll get the next guy in, and maybe it won't happen. That's how you go from $4.5 trillion to $6.2 trillion.
Republicans have begun saying that it needs to be a scalpel, not a sledgehammer.
Yes,
and it has been a sledgehammer.
Joining me now is Senator Bernie Sanders, independent from Vermont, who caucuses with the Democrats. Senator Sanders, thanks very much for joining us. Do you think there'll be a recession?
Got me, but I think there is so much chaos in the world right now created by Biden. We have a trade war with our two neighbors, Canada and Mexico. You have the President of the United States wanting to take over the Panama Canal, take over Greenland, God knows what else. We are laying off, Mr. Musk is now laying off or proposing to lay off hundreds of thousands of federal employees. What will that mean to the Veterans Administration? What will that mean to Social Security? What will that mean in terms of unemployment? So I think all of those questions creates a lot of economic uncertainty.
President Trump has said many times on the campaign trail that he would not touch entitlements like Social Security or Medicare, which I know are priorities for you. Elon Musk, however, seems to be leaning in the other direction. I want to play something he said in an interview today to Fox Business.
The way it's important in entitlement spending, which is which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. That's like the big one to eliminate. That's the sort of $500 billion, maybe $700 billion a year. That is also a mechanism by which the Democrats attract and retain illegal immigrants by essentially paying them
now we're following
to come here and then turning them into voters.
Is now doubling
So,
the tariffs
what do you make of his desire to cut entitlements? He says he wants to go after waste and fraud, and the reason he just
Dow Jones down now.
Well, he has
Take a look at
called
this.
Social
You see the
Security
Dow is way down, getting close to 600.
Breaking news. This is CNN Breaking News.
Now we're following the breaking news. President Trump saying he is now doubling the tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel as markets reel for a second day in a row. The Dow Jones down now. Take a look at this. You see the Dow is way down, getting close to 600 points now, 622 points down right now, 622. It's all fueled by the enormous uncertainty over the president's trade war. Joining us now, CNN White House reporter Elena Treen. Elena is joining us, and CNN business and politics correspondent Vanessa Yurkevich is in New York. She's joining us as well. Elena, let me start with you. What is the White House saying, first of all, about this latest escalation in tariffs involving our closest neighbor and good friend, Canada?
Well, Wolf, we really saw the president just moments ago with this post on social media really just ramp up some of that uncertainty and threats to Canada. I note as well that this comes just days after Canada selected a new leader for the Liberal Party. We are going to see them have a new prime minister soon, someone who has said that he wants to continue what Justin Trudeau has been doing. But I want to get into what the president said. He said that in response to the Premier of Ontario placing a 25% tariff on electricity in certain states, that he is going to be responding, as you mentioned, with increasing tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25% to 50%. He also argued that those are going to go into effect starting tomorrow morning. He also said he would soon be declaring a national emergency on electricity within the threatened area. And he went on to say that if he does not like what Canada does, if he does not like how they respond, he will significantly increase tariffs on automakers and cars coming into the United States from Canada. And he added as well, he said this, which I found very notable, quote, "The only thing that makes sense is for Canada to become our cherished 51st state," just continuing on with that taunt. But I think the big picture here, Wolf, is that we have seen so much uncertainty. The market had its worst day yesterday that it has had all year. A lot of people wanting to get some reassurance from the president and the White House. This is not doing that. This is only creating far more uncertainty at a time when people are very concerned about the state of the economy.
And the markets are not good so far today in the first couple hours or so since it's open. The Dow Jones, as you can see, bottom right-hand corner of the screen, down 570 points already. Elena, stand by. I want to bring in Vanessa. Vanessa, how else is Wall Street responding this morning? Yesterday was very, very bad. Today looks pretty bad as well.
Yeah, markets open mixed this morning, kind of waiting to see what the president was going to say. We got that answer at 10 a.m. when the president posted on Truth Social that he would be doubling tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. And you see now markets reacting to that news, falling even further. There's a big question here about whether or not we're pointing towards a recession. President Trump said that he could not rule one out, and Goldman Sachs has just increased their recession forecast to 20% from 15%. But just to reassure folks at home, we are not in recession territory just yet. And Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve, said that the economy is actually in a good place right now. But there are flashing warning signs right now. We are hearing from major retailers about what the outlook is looking like for consumers for this year. Delta slashing its forecast by about half, and also Kohl's saying that this is going to be a turbulent 2025 for consumers, and you see those stocks reacting right there. Also in the auto industry, President Trump in his post said that he is going to go ahead on April 2nd and put tariffs on any autos coming into the U.S. But the problem is Canadian auto parts and cars are very much intertwined with U.S. manufacturing. Those stocks, GM, Ford, and Stellantis, the big three here in the U.S., are also down this morning on that news, Wolf.
They certainly are. How is Canada so far reacting, Vanessa?
Well, Canada has said that they want to come to the negotiating table and try to work something out. But we heard just moments ago from Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, who reacted to Trump's Truth Social post this morning. Take a listen to what he said.
I apologize to the American people that President Trump decided to have an unprovoked attack on our country, on families, on jobs, and it's unacceptable. I'll talk to the team and we'll make an appropriate response to President Trump. Again, I stress, this is not the American people. Canadians know it. And if we go into a recession, it's self-made by one person. It's called President Trump's recession, which shouldn't be this way. We should be booming both countries right now.
Now, Wolf, we have been reporting a lot on the trade war with Canada, Mexico, and China, but this is really shaping up to be a global trade war. You heard from the premier right there saying that the recession that could be coming would be self-inflicted. We also heard the same thing from the former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, who said that would also be self-inflicted. Now, the markets this morning have been reacting at every step of the way along this news cycle. It'll be interesting to see if we get any readout from the 5 p.m. business roundtable that the president is holding later today, and whether or not business leaders can try to pull back President Trump from some of these more rash tariff decisions, of course, rattling markets and American consumers who are looking for some certainty right now, Wolf.
We'll see what happens, and we'll monitor what the president has to say later today. He was silent on all of this yesterday. Vanessa Yurkevich and Elena Treen reporting for us. To both of you, thank you.
It's Brienne, CNN's Maddie again with a look at the markets. Quite a change for Trump 2.0. Going back, it wasn't so long ago in his first term where he was touting the market's climbs. Now he seems to be ignoring them, suggesting he doesn't even pay attention, though those around him all say he watches closely. So what's going on, Matt?
Well, Bianna and Zane, as you guys know, CEOs and investors, they really crave stability and clarity, not chaos. Unfortunately, though, they're getting more and more chaos really by the day. You would have thought that after yesterday's steep sell-off where the Dow fell almost 900 points, that perhaps the White House might change its tune on tariffs and this trade war, but that did not happen. Instead, we saw U.S. stocks fall significantly after President Trump announced plans to really escalate further this trade battle with Canada by announcing plans to double the steel and aluminum tariffs to 50% and suggest that more tariffs are on the way. I just got off the phone with market veteran Art Hogan, and he said, look, this is a market that is just blatantly sick and tired of the back and forth on trade policy. And he said it feels as though the administration just continues to move the goalposts. With all that uncertainty, it's just impossible for investors to have any confidence. And so we are seeing that play out again today, where investors really want to know where this is all going, how long tariffs are going to be in place, how high they're going to go, on which countries and why. And yet it feels like this is another day where we're really left with more questions than answers.
I mean, yeah, there's very little clarity. I mean, we initially thought that these tariffs were going to go into effect on April 2nd, and then Donald Trump now saying that because Ontario essentially imposed taxes or raised taxes on electricity being imported into the U.S., that Donald Trump was now going to, as you point out, double tariffs on steel and aluminum to 50%. And he's saying that these tariffs are going to go into effect as soon as tomorrow. And so given this trade war with Canada really ramping up, my question to you is how resilient is the U.S. economy? Is it prepared to withstand what's coming down the pike?
Well, we're about to find out just how resilient it is. Thankfully, we're in a situation where the unemployment rate is low. We know that the economy was growing at the end of last year. The jobs market was continuing to add jobs in January and February. So all of that is good, right? We also know that this economy has been very resilient in the past few years. It has survived shock after shock after shock, whether it's the supply chain mess and the inflation crisis and the Fed spiking interest rates. Like each time the economy was able to withstand that pressure. But now there's a new kind of pressure. It's being largely driven by this chaos and policy uncertainty out of Washington. A former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, he says that he is increasingly worried about the potential for a recession in the United States this year. Take a listen to what Summers said.
This is pretty much a self-inflicted wound. I think we've got a real possibility of a vicious cycle where weakening economy leads to weaker markets, and then weaker markets lead to a weakening economy. So I'm pretty worried about the whole situation.
Now, of course, it's far too early to say that there will be a recession, right? We just don't know that at this point. And it's also worth remembering there have been recession scares in the past that proved to be overblown. And just how the market reaction to the election, to the upside, was probably overdone, right? Investors kept pricing in all of the positives of the Trump agenda, none of the negatives. It's also possible that this market sell-off and this extreme fear we're seeing in the market, that could also be overdone as well. But I think what is clear is that investors really want to see more clarity from the White House on tariffs and this trade war.
Yeah, I mean, the headlines keep coming out of this White House, not even by the day, but by the hour. I mean, this really spooking markets, the fact that the president came out and doubled down on retaliatory tariffs against Canada, set to begin tomorrow. So all of this, as we say, to be continued. You'll be watching the markets for us, though, closely. Matt Egan, thank you.
We're following breaking news here on Live Now from Fox as President Trump just announced that he will double the planned tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. And at this hour, Wall Street reacting to this breaking news. You're taking a live look right here at the Dow Jones Index, now down more than 460 points. President Trump saying that he will double his planned tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25% to 50% for Canada, saying that the increase of the tariffs are set to take effect tomorrow as a response to the price increases that the provincial government of Ontario put on electricity sold to the United States. President Trump taking to social media, sharing this post right here, saying that, quote, based on Ontario, Canada placing a 25% tariff on electricity coming into the United States, I have instructed my Secretary of Commerce to add an additional 25% tariff to 50% on all steel and aluminum coming into the United States from Canada, one of the highest tariffing nations anywhere in the world. This will go into effect tomorrow morning, March 12th. Also, Canada must immediately drop.
We have some breaking news coming in. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau speaking right now after the U.S. slapped Canada with.
We're following breaking news here on Live Now from Fox as President Trump just announced that he will double the planned tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. And at this hour, Wall Street reacting to this breaking news. You're taking a live look right here at the Dow Jones Index, now down more than 460 points. President Trump saying that he will double his planned tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25% to 50% for Canada, saying that the increase of the tariffs are set to take effect tomorrow as a response to the price increases that the provincial government of Ontario put on electricity sold to the United States. President Trump taking to social media, sharing this post right here, saying that, quote, based on Ontario, Canada placing a 25% tariff on electricity coming into the United States, I have instructed my Secretary of Commerce to add an additional 25% tariff to 50% on all steel and aluminum coming into the United States from Canada, one of the highest tariffing nations anywhere in the world. This will go into effect tomorrow morning, March 12th. Also, Canada must immediately drop their anti-American farmer tariff of 250% to 390% on various U.S. dairy products, which has long been considered outrageous. I will shortly be declaring a national emergency on electricity within the threatened area. This will allow the U.S. to quickly do what has to be done to alleviate this abusive threat from Canada. If other egregious long-time tariffs are not likewise dropped by Canada, I will substantially increase on April 2nd the tariffs on cars coming into the U.S., which will essentially permanently shut down the automobile manufacturing business in Canada. Those cars can easily be made in the USA. Also, Canada pays very little for national security, relying on the United States for military protection. We are subsidizing Canada to the tune of more than $200 billion a year. Why? This cannot continue. The only thing that makes sense is for Canada to become our cherished 51st state. This would make all tariffs and everything else totally disappear. Canadian taxes will be very substantially reduced. They will be more secure militarily and otherwise than ever before. There would be no longer a northern border problem, and the greatest and most powerful nation in the world will be bigger, better, and stronger than ever. And Canada will be part of that. The artificial line of separation drawn many years ago will finally disappear, and we will have the safest and most beautiful nation anywhere in the world. And your brilliant anthem, O Canada, will continue to play but now representing a great and powerful state within the greatest nation that the world has ever seen. President Trump taking to social media, sharing that lengthy statement as he has just announced that he will double the tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25% to 50% for Canada. That is set to take effect tomorrow. This after the provincial government of Ontario put an electricity tariff on electricity exported to the United States. And Wall Street continuing to react at this hour as the Dow Jones now down more than 430 points. It's after a very significant stock market sell-off yesterday because of President Trump's tariff threats. We continue to follow this breaking news, bringing you all the latest updates as they happen.
We've had a great almost 6 weeks now, and I hope we can continue to go like that. We're at a very rapid pace. We have to make up for a lot of lost time. And the country was very poorly run for 4 years. That you know better than anybody. Nobody covered it better than you, frankly. It's an honor to be with so many great people. We have really great people working with us.
You said America is back, momentum is back, our pride and spirit are back, and we're just getting started.
Right.
What do you specifically want America to look like in 4 years when you're done?
Well, I want a dynamic country where the private enterprise carries the day, not the government. And I want a strong country militarily. We need that nowadays. You can see that probably better than ever before. So I rebuilt our military. A lot of it was given away to Afghanistan, but it was a lot, but a very small portion, in all fairness. But when you think about the billions and billions of dollars that was just handed over, but I rebuilt it. We're going to be rebuilding it again because we need that. We always need that. But we're doing a series of incentives, tax incentives and other things. The tax bill, I think, is going to be very important. The Democrats will fight us all the way. One thing I learned the other night, again, I could say, because it's my fifth such speech. And at the beginning, I said, I didn't know it was going to be as pertinent as it turned out to be, that no matter what I do, this group of people in front of us, I could come up with the cure to the worst disease that the world has ever seen. I gave other examples. I said, no matter what I do, they're going to sit there angry, insolent. You just see it. I mean, you see it, you can feel it. No matter what I say, no matter what I do, no matter who it is, they won't stand, they won't applaud, they won't clap. They'll just sit there with sour faces. And that's what they did. And, you know, it was interesting. I said, I wonder if I should put this in, but it worked out to be true. And I think by putting it in, I showed that it was true. And it's sad because we're doing great things in this country. This country's really got a chance to be pretty quickly great again. I think the country has got a big light over it right now, and I've been told this by even other foreign leaders. We had Modi, we had everybody. We had from France to India to about 12 that want to come in. They all want to be here. Every one of them wants to be here. We had the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom who was here, and he couldn't believe. He said the difference in terms of the feeling about the United States is very different. It feels that we're back, we're respected again. We are respected again, and in a way we're back, and it's only been a few weeks.
And you spoke to the president of Mexico today. I want to talk about tariffs because even as you're seeing this optimism and excitement, there's some nervousness over your tariffs. Markets have been selling off. People are not sure how to view it. Why did you roll back or put a pause into some of the tariffs until April 2nd?
Because I wanted to help Mexico and Canada to a certain extent. We're a big, big country, and they do a lot of their business with us, whereas in our case, it's much less significant. We do very little with Canada by comparison. And I wanted to help the American car makers until April 2nd. April 2nd, it becomes all reciprocal. What they charge us, we charge them. It's a big deal, but what they charge us, we charge them. But this is short term, and I felt that for the good of the American car makers and the MCA, you know, the USMCA, that's Mexico, Canada. I thought it would be a fair thing to do, and so I gave them a little bit of a break for this short period of time.
But I asked you about this before, and I know you told me when I asked you, I said, you did use USMCA, you put this together.
Yeah.
And yet then you come back and you change it up with these tariffs, and you said to me at that time, I did it because I can. I put an amendment in there, and I said in 6 years I can change it. But I think CEOs want to see predictability. They say, look, I have to speak with shareholders. I've got to make plans for CapEx spending. I can't if it's 20% one day and then it's off for a month and it's 25%.
Yeah.
So can you give us a sense of whether or not we are going to get clarity for the business community?
Well, I think so. But, you know, the tariffs could go up as time goes by, and they may go up. And, you know, I don't know if it's predictability. I think
So that's not clarity?
No, I think that they say that. You know, it sounds good to say. But for years, the globalists, the big globalists, have been ripping off the United States. They've been taking money away from the United States. And all we're doing is getting some of it back. And we're going to treat our country fairly. This country has been ripped off from every nation in the world, every company outside in the world. We've been ripped off at levels never seen before. And all we're going to do is get it back. We're going to get a lot of it back. We're not going to let people take advantage of us anymore. You know, we're the United States. I believe that if Kamala had won, meaning that whole ideology, Kamala and Biden and Obama, that whole group of people, if they had won, I don't think we would have had a country any longer. I think this was the most, somebody said it the other day, the most consequential election in 129 years. If they would have won, I don't think we would have had a country. Not only did we won every swing state. Remember, I was watching your show just before the election. You were talking about, I think he's going to win 4 or 5. We won all 7. And we won the popular vote by millions of votes. We won the number of counties by 2,500 to 500, you know, 2,750 to 500. And it's amazing. The map is all red.
Which is why I was surprised at the Democrats' behavior the other night, because you delivered among the most diverse, expanded audience, Republicans, Democrats, independents.
Yeah.
So is it just the Democrat leadership that does not see that?
There's something wrong with them. It's just something, I can't even believe it. They lost an election in a landslide. They were talking about men playing in women's sports. When I looked the other night, I made a speech. The Republicans were going wild, and the Democrats were having their little signs up, their little tiny signs. And I said, it's unbelievable. They don't get it. They don't get it now. And I think they're going to end up being a minor party if they keep going like this, because people don't want to hear about these stupid ideas that they have. Transgender for everybody. And again, the men and women's sports, what is that, a 90 to 10 deal? I don't even know who the 10 would be. But they're fighting for it. And I try and say to myself, because you always like to understand where your opponent is, whether it's in business or anything else, is there something I don't understand? But we don't understand it. You look at their theories on tax. You know, all my life I've watched politics. I've always liked it. I've watched it. I've participated, but from the standpoint of a donor. But I participated. And all my life I've watched politicians, we will cut your taxes. We will cut your taxes. These people say we're going to raise your taxes. This is the only time. It's never said. I've never heard it. They say it even if they don't mean it. We will cut your taxes. These people say that we're going to give you the biggest tax increase you've ever had. And that's what they're running on. And I tell Republicans, take that night, because that was a great night. You got record ratings. You saw that. The highest rated speech like ever of its kind. Take that night and run your midterms on it and show us I'm talking about some young child with cancer or some young, beautiful girl like Laken Riley who was killed, and they don't get up. And they don't salute the mother who's there devastated. Nungery, they don't get up. And they don't salute the mother whose child was devastated. I mean, brutally killed. The young boy with cancer that wants to be a cop. And they don't get up and salute that child. They not only don't get up, they're angry. And the only thing that happened that was interesting really about it was that when I mentioned Ukraine and people being killed, they started clapping. And that clap was led by Pocahontas.
I saw what you said, and,
Yeah.
and I want to ask you about Ukraine and the blow up the other day with Zelensky. Let me stay on the economy for a moment, because there are rising worries about a slowdown. You've got the Atlanta Federal Reserve saying we're going to have a contraction in the first quarter. Look, I know that you inherited a mess, and you said that the other night.
I've only been here,
but
for a
are
while.
you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition, because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time. It takes a little time. But I think it should be great for us. I mean, I think it should be great. It's going to be great ultimately for the farmer. You know, don't forget, I made the deal with China on the farmers where they had to buy $50 billion worth of product. $50 billion, from 15 to 50.
Did they
and it was
follow
great.
up and do it?
They did it when I was president. What happened is when Biden was president, they didn't buy any longer. Yeah, because there was nobody to call them. I used to call President Xi. I said, you got to do me a favor. You got to, live up to that agreement. And he was great. He did.
Before you came into the Oval Office the first time, you were a very successful businessman, very successful real estate executive. And a lot of people said, oh, this is the business president. This is it. He's watching the stock market. He knows all about, he doesn't want the market to go down. And now we've got tariffs and the market has been going down.
Well, not much. I mean, in all fairness.
You said, look, we're going to have a disruption, but we're okay with that. Is that what you meant? The stock market going down was the disruption? What other disruption were you alluding to?
Look, what I have to do is build a strong country. You can't really watch the stock market. If you look at China, they have a 100-year perspective. We have a quarter. We go by quarters.
That's true.
And you can't go by that. You have to do what's right. What we're doing is we're building a tremendous foundation for the future, tremendous foundation. Everything's been taken away. We don't make ships anymore. We don't, you just saw one of the biggest shipbuilders in the world, one of the biggest shipping people in the whole world.
In the Oval Office with you.
In the Oval Office. He's announcing a $20 billion investment in the United States, which he would have never done except for this. But look at this. Honda, Toyota, they're all coming in. You take a look at what's happening. The chip maker, the greatest chipper, Mr. Wei, the biggest in the world by far, is going to spend $200 billion on making a massive plant to make chips.
So that's your message? Build it here?
Build it here. There's no tariff.
Yeah. The public companies.
Let's discuss with Frank Holland, the anchor of CNBC's Worldwide Exchange, Eugene Daniels, MSNBC senior Washington correspondent, and incoming morning host of The Weekend here on MSNBC. Also with us, Catherine Rampell, who we can now announce will officially be joining MSNBC as a co-host of the evening edition of The Weekend on Saturday and Sunday. So first, welcome. Congratulations, Catherine. It's so great to have you as part of the family. Eugene, we already had our celebration, I think, last week, but really fun to have you both on with us. I'm going to get to you guys in just a moment, but let me start with you, Frank. We just saw this big sell-off in the last 24 hours. How are the markets doing this morning, some 30 minutes now into trading?
Hey there, Anna. Good morning to you. Kind of a mixed start to the trading day right now. The S&P just slightly higher right now. The Dow down more than 100 points. The NASDAQ coming off its worst day since 2022. Bouncing back somewhat, up just about 0.5%. But that certainly isn't easing the concerns about the stock market that has lost. And I want you to make sure you're hearing this number correctly. $4 trillion of market value since its all-time high less than a month ago. I'm talking on February the 19th. Citi putting out a note saying that U.S. exceptionalism, it's at least paused. It's giving you a sense of the sentiment on Wall Street. So all this action on the stock market is one thing. There's also rising concerns about the U.S. economy. Remember, the stock market and economy, they're not the same thing. But these economic worries, they're certainly fueling these stock market declines. Important to note that it's not just one thing that's impacting the stock market or the economy. It's tariff concerns that are fueling inflation concerns, that are fueling recession concerns, kind of like a snake biting its own tail. And now there's new concerns about the consumer. That's especially after Delta Airlines warned it expects profits to be lower than previously indicated because of a slowdown in both business and consumer spending and travel. And this morning, some popular retailers like Kohl's and Dick's Sporting Goods also painting a picture of a consumer slowdown. Then there's the tech trade. That tech trade has really powered the stock market over the last 2 years. It's certainly unwound in recent days. And
oh man, I gotta post this chat, this statement right here. Livia Lux, Yeah, that name grabs my attention, right? So Olivia Lux says black men thought they were going to get more stimulus checks. Damn. Okay. Okay. All right. You think it was about the stimulus checks for black men? Maybe black men thought Trump was going to do a better job. Maybe that was it. I mean,
one of our most notable personalities here on CNBC, Jim Cramer of Mad Money, he made a statement yesterday that a lot of people are paying attention to. He's saying the Magnificent Seven, that's the basket of stocks that have really powered the stock market, those AI-focused stocks, it just doesn't exist anymore, according to Cramer. He says Tesla and NVIDIA, an AI name that's gone from obscurity to ubiquitous, they're just not magnificent anymore. That's according to him. He says they're just not magnificent. They're simply meme stocks right now. They kind of twist and turn on investor sentiment, sometimes called animal spirits. So
I'll tell you guys this. Here's just a suggestion. Not that I know anything, but I do indulge in trading stock. I do some day trading, some swing trading, stuff like that. And here's what I'll say to you guys if you're involved with it directly yourself, not through your 401ks or anything. This is a great opportunity. It is a great opportunity. I'm talking about the stock market. What we have to understand, and what most of you guys probably know, is that when it comes to the stock market, you make money both ways. You can make money when the stocks are going down, and you can make money when the stocks are coming up. One of the more, I'm not going to say it might be lucrative for some, but the reason why I say it's an opportunity is this. Because all of the three major markets are going down because of the tariff wars, because of the trade wars. Because that is happening, you could actually short your stock and make money on the way down. You could pick a stock and short it, and you will make money on its way down. Once a lot of this tariff stuff settles out, then you just cash out on your short and you ride it back up because it's going to come back up. The stock is just going to go down, and it's an easy case for it because it's happening in all three of the major markets, the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, and the S&P 500. And it's all for the same reason. So you don't have to watch what a CEO is doing or what a new product is in this principal way. You're just looking at one catalyst. And what is that catalyst? The tariff wars, the trade wars. And the more that the United States is pounding on doubling the tariffs or making it a little more stringent and rugged, and the more that the Canadians' response is, we're going to cut off electricity, we're going to stop gas from flowing through, or whatever they're saying, it's going to send the market down. And now you don't have to be a scientist or any of that stuff about reading markets and trendings and all of that because it's being handed to you in a fruit basket. So you take advantage of that opportunity if you're day trading or swing trading and you short your stocks, okay? And once it settles and once there's this air and this attitude and all of a sudden it's being promoted and put in all of the news networks and media that, hey, Trump is negotiating with Canada. Both Canada and Trump, they're at a standstill, and they're willing to make concessions, and all of a sudden the market will come back up, and then that's a free ride up. I'm telling you. I'm just letting you know if you're thinking about or you're just into stock now, this is a great opportunity where it's demonstrated you make money both ways. Trust me. Shorting the stock is making money when the stock is going down. Okay? And you can, all right, I'll shut up because this is not about trading. I'm just telling you, if you're looking for a silver lining in terms of opportunities to make money and you're involved in stock and you're thinking, okay, it's the end of the world because everything's going down. No. In the stock market, you make money in both directions. It just depends on what you're doing. Even if you're doing options, then you got your calls and your puts. And those people with puts are just, oh my God, they're feeling really good right now. So, all right, let me shut up and finish playing how the stock market is just crashing right in front of our face for the second or third day.
Coming up tomorrow, we have a big economic report. We have an inflation read, CPI, a hot read. I don't have a crystal ball, but a hot read could lead to a very big market reaction, more than likely to the downside. It's also the last read of inflation before the March Fed meeting. So there wasn't a lot expected in that Fed meeting, but that could possibly change. We did hear from Fed Chair Jay Powell on Friday. He said that the Fed has taken a wait-and-see approach when it comes to the Trump policies and rate cuts, but recession concerns, they're certainly growing louder and louder. Anna,
yeah, Frank, as we've been talking, the markets keep crashing. They keep going down. Started at down 145. Now we're at down 416, now 418. Did I hear you correctly? $4 trillion in market loss in the recent weeks?
Well, now that we're past the opening bell, that number has probably increased. As you mentioned, a lot of people are going to say I'm bad luck right now, but the Dow certainly took a big move to the downside while we were talking, now down more than 400 points. The S&P, often called the broader market, down more than 0.75%. The NASDAQ losing all of its gains. It was a bit of a bounce back. It was up about 0.5%, now down 0.25%. But yes, you absolutely heard me correctly. And we've just seen a big change in momentum when it comes to the stock market. A lot of money going out of those big name tech stocks like an Nvidia, a Tesla, an Amazon, a Microsoft, and an Alphabet, and moving to other we often call defensive parts of the market, things like healthcare and utilities. These are things that pay dividends. Investors looking for some protection away from some of these declines in the market. A lot of money also going into the bond market. So we're looking at the 10-year. It's often seen as a read on what things are going to cost if you want to finance them. We've seen the 10-year yield decline by about 50 basis points from its high earlier this year. That's an indication that investors are putting money into bonds, looking for safety from all this volatility.
All right, CNBC's Frank Holland, appreciate you breaking it down for us. Thank you so much, Frank. Catherine, just 7 weeks into Trump's second term.
And so, like they're talking about, the market in and of itself. I'll give you an example. I'm gonna drag a screen over. I'll drag this screen over here, and I'll show you the current market right here. I'll make it easier to see. Just give me a second. But what I'm displaying is, or attempting to anyway, right, is this idea. Let's take a stock. Let's take Tesla, right? Because everybody's an Elon Musk fan, okay? So, or at least they say when it's convenient, they are, right? So let's take Tesla for example. So right now it's $229. All right. So let me see if I can center this. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, that's better. So if you look at Tesla, and we look at it from a 6 month. Let's look at it from 6 months. So this is a 6 month chart. Okay. This is a 6 month chart right here. All right. Now, if you look at Tesla for the last 6 months, and I know Tesla's going to get you rich, and it probably has, and I think that's wonderful. But right here is the chart. Let me move this up, and let me bring this up so you guys can see what I'm attempting to say. So this is the Tesla chart. On the right-hand side, you see where it says Tesla over here. That's this right here, right? That's what this is. But I'm gonna get rid of it. I'm gonna broaden this out so you can see more of the chart. There we go. So this whole chart is just Tesla, just to let you know. Now, look at it this way. If I go all the way back here to October 23, that's the furthest left I can go. Tesla is on its way up. That's what it's doing. It's going up. It's definitely going up in a way. That's what it's doing, right? Okay. Now, here's the trend. So here it is, and that trend ran up until it hit 493 or close to 500, And that happened the 17th or the middle of December. That's when that happened. In the middle of December, it hit that, and that's where that is, right? Now, from the middle of December all the way through now, look at that trend. Look at that trend. See, it's different. Look at that. So if you think about that, let me change this to another color so you can see it. Maybe give it some thickness. There we go, right there. It went from $400, almost $500, and now it's $229. Everybody who shorted it, they've just been making money the whole time. It's been going down. The whole time it's been going down. Now, here's the issue. Here's what Tesla is facing as a stock. And this is just my unprofessional opinion. Tesla is facing this right here. This line that I'm drawing, that line that I just drew, that I'm going to change the color of. That blue line that I just drew. Here's what Tesla is facing. Why? Because see this triangle shape? Remember, on the far left, it's down here at 212. It goes all the way up to 490 something, close to 500. Since the middle of December, it's come all the way back down, and it's at about 229 or something like that. Right now, it's $229, $228, and falling, right? This line right here represents what some might call a critical support line, a very critical support line. And why is this a critical support line? Because what this line indicates analytically, right? I'm just, it's analytics, right? Chart reading and stuff like that. This indicates that if the support isn't there when it gets down close to the 212 or 210, to bounce Tesla back up and it falls below the support line, it's going to go down even further. You can look for it to go down to its next support line, which might be somewhere in the area of $184. Yeah, it could go down to $184. So, and I know I'm saying all that to say what? I'm saying all that to say that is opportunity. Don't think everybody in all of these institutions in the world is suffering because it's going down. A lot of people, a lot of institutions, a lot of individuals, they're making money off of this market going down. Because what happens is it's going to come back up. And it's like a basketball. It may not bounce all the way back up to the top, but it will come back up maybe midway from where it fell down. So it might go from here. So it may go from here to there, not all the way to the top, but somewhere in the middle. So just keep that in mind. This is not disaster for everybody as you think. This is actually opportunity. Some of us like this situation. I just don't want to boast and brag about it because I know others are looking at their 401k and they don't handle their 401k. Like you could actually direct stuff in your 401k yourself. You could point everything towards a thing or two or whatever. You could go in there and I know it's passive, but you can manage it or give it some direction yourself if you choose to. 99% of the people aren't going to do that because they really don't understand how the whole stock thing works, and they shouldn't do that because you're letting them handle that. You're letting them handle it. So I'll shut up and get back to the news, but I'm just telling you, when the stocks are falling, I'll say this. If the stocks or the market was a forest fire, That's one fire you want to run to, because that's actually an opportunity. That's all I'm saying. It could be for so many people, but like I said, let me shut up.
What's your take? How is the U.S. economy?
Trump inherited what was actually an excellent economy. Whether or not voters recognized it last November, we had very low unemployment, cooling, if not cool enough, inflation, strong GDP growth. We were, hopefully still are to some extent, the envy of the world. And the best thing Trump could have done for this U.S. economy is just nothing at all. Like, go play golf and let the trends continue as they are. Instead, he seems to be hell-bent on sabotaging it. I mean, whether or not he recognizes that that's what he's doing, that is what he's doing. I have argued for years that presidents get too much credit when things are good, too much blame when things are bad. They get too much responsibility. They don't control the economy. It really feels like Trump is single-handedly trying to disprove me by doing undertaking all of these policies that are very detrimental, whether we're talking about raising prices through tariffs or raising the tariffs and suspending the tariffs and raising the tariffs again and again, which creates more uncertainty, which makes it almost impossible for businesses to make investment decisions, or other kinds of sabotage, things like threatening to deport large chunks of critical labor forces in agriculture, for example, picking fights with the Federal Reserve. All of those things are bad for economic stability, verging on, potentially dragging on economic growth and raising the threat, I will say, not definitively dooming us to recession or stagflation, but certainly raising the threat of those outcomes.
Eugene, of course, the stock market's just one little blip when it comes to the broader economy, and the president hasn't said much about the market sell-off. The White House has been downplaying the turmoil at large. Any sense if it's different behind closed doors? Are they worried?
Not really. They believe that what they're doing is the right way. President Donald Trump, his financial team, his advisors, they think this is the thing that they should be doing. These tariffs, they think in the long run, it will pay off. You heard President Trump last week in his joint address to Congress, basically telling people, farmers especially, that you might feel the pain, but it's going to be worth it in the end. Now, I will say it's not just the stock market. You also have consumer confidence is down. Right. And so what that tells you is that a lot of this is also going to be on the PR side of things. How much does the White House, how much does President Trump talk about how people are feeling? They should, I think, President Joe Biden learned a valuable lesson. And when people feel something about the economy, it's very hard to pull that back. So whether or not the president and his team are going to keep talking about hearing how people are feeling and talking about what they're actually doing to make egg prices cheaper, for example, the kinds of actual evidence they have that they're going to be making moves on those in soon to be weeks and months, so that people feel better about the economy and taking that seriously. Otherwise, even some of his closest advisors do believe there could be some political risk for him.
As we keep watching the markets right now down some 313 points, Catherine, the stock market has mattered to President Trump in years past. He's touted it as a measure of his success personally. Here's a sample of then and now.
I don't want to say this, it's too braggadocious, but we'll say it anyway. The Trump effect, it's you're the effect. Since the election, the stock market has surged. I was very proud to have handed over the country, and the stock market was higher than it was previous to the pandemic coming in. It was an amazing achievement.
Now we've got tariffs and the market has been going down.
Well, not much. I mean, in all fairness, you can't really watch the stock market.
What do you make of the president changing his tune?
Well, Donald Trump has never been overly concerned with intellectual consistency, to put it mildly. But yes, he has always claimed credit when markets go up, whether or not it has anything to do with his actions. And of course, abstains from blame when markets go down. And in this case, I think it is pretty directly related to his own actions. Probably markets were overvalued to some extent last year, but Trump is destroying some of the fundamental strengths that the United States has. So it's not just a correction that I think we should be worried about. It's, again, if you are a business and you don't know what your price structure will be, because you don't know whether there will be tariffs, where there will be tariffs, how that will affect your supply chain. It's very difficult to make investment decisions. It's difficult to make hiring decisions. It's difficult to make purchase decisions. All of these things suggest that companies are going to hold back and pause, and that means, at the very least, slower growth, and potentially worse, declines in growth. I mean, that's what we talk about really when we're talking about a recession, is that the economy turns downward overall, including growth, unemployment, et cetera, or hiring. It is true that we probably should not pay that much attention to the stock market, even when times are good. I've said this many times when he bragged about the stock market. But in this case, I think the stock market really reflects concerns about the real economy. Stocks are essentially a measure of expectations of future profit flows for companies. And we've seen a lot of companies say in their recent quarterly earnings that they are concerned about how the tariff landscape will affect them, as well as what it will mean for consumers if, in fact, they become a lot less confident about the economy and their spending.
And just to highlight some of the unpredictability, the instability, this back and forth, the herky-jerky nature of some of these decisions. President Trump, as we've been talking, just announced on social media, on Truth Social, that in response to Canada placing a 25% tariff on electricity that comes into the U.S., he is now enacting a 50% tariff on all steel and aluminum coming into the U.S. from Canada, set to go into effect tomorrow morning. 5% tariff on electricity that comes into the U.S. He is now enacting a 50% tariff on all steel and aluminum coming into the U.S. from Canada, set to go into effect tomorrow morning.
This is CNN Breaking News.
And we're following the breaking news. President Trump saying he is now doubling the tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel as markets reel for a second day in a row. The Dow Jones down now. Take a look at this. You see the Dow is way down, getting close to 600 points now, 622 points down right now, 622. It's all fueled by the enormous uncertainty over the president's trade war. Joining us now, CNN White House reporter Elena Treen. Elena is joining us, and CNN business and politics correspondent Vanessa Yurkevich is in New York. She's joining us as well. Elena, let me start with you. What is the White House saying, first of all, about this latest escalation in tariffs involving our closest neighbor and good friend, Canada?
Well, Wolf, we really saw the president just moments ago with this post on social media really just ramp up some of that uncertainty and threats to Canada. I note as well that this comes just days after Canada selected a new leader for the Liberal Party. We are going to see them have a new prime minister soon, someone who has said that he wants to continue what Justin Trudeau has been doing. But I want to get into what the president said. He said that in response to the Premier of Ontario placing a 25% tariff on electricity in certain states, that he is going to be responding, as you mentioned, with increasing tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25% to 50%. He also argued that those are going to go into effect starting tomorrow morning. He also said he would soon be declaring a national emergency on electricity within the threatened area. And he went on to say that if he does not like what Canada does, if he does not like how they respond, he will significantly increase tariffs on automakers and cars coming into the United States from Canada. And he added as well, he said this, which I found very notable, quote, "The only thing that makes sense is for Canada to become our cherished 51st state," just continuing on with that taunt. But I think the big picture here, Wolf, is that we have seen so much uncertainty. The market had its worst day yesterday that it has had all year. A lot of people wanting to get some reassurance from the president and the White House. This is not doing that. This is only creating far more uncertainty at a time when people are very concerned about the state of the economy.
And the markets are not good so far today in the first couple hours or so since it's open. The Dow Jones, as you can see, bottom right-hand corner of the screen, down 570 points already. Elena, stand by. I want to bring in Vanessa. Vanessa, how else is Wall Street responding this morning? Yesterday was very, very bad. Today looks pretty bad as well.
Yeah, markets open mixed this morning, kind of waiting to see what the president was going to say. We got that answer at 10 a.m. when the president posted on Truth Social that he would be doubling tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. And you see now markets reacting to that news, falling even further. There's a big question here about whether or not we're pointing towards a recession. President Trump said that he could not rule one out, and Goldman Sachs has just increased their recession forecast to 20% from 15%. But just to reassure folks at home, we are not in recession territory just yet. And Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve, said that the economy is actually in a good place right now. But there are flashing warning signs right now. We are hearing from major retailers about what the outlook is looking like for consumers for this year. Delta slashing its forecast by about half, and also Kohl's saying that this is going to be a turbulent 2025 for consumers, and you see those stocks reacting right there. Also in the auto industry, President Trump in his post said that he is going to go ahead on April 2nd and put tariffs on any autos coming into the U.S. But the problem is Canadian auto parts and cars are very much intertwined with U.S. manufacturing. Those stocks, GM, Ford, and Stellantis, the big three here in the U.S., are also down this morning on that news, Wolf.
They certainly are. How's Canada so far reacting, Vanessa?
Well, Canada has said that they want to come to the negotiating table and